Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Adam Interviews, where we're talking with people doing extraordinary things. Often that's within Rochester. Today, we're going to be talking with someone who has done extraordinary things for the world and happened to be in Rochester just a couple of months ago. So joining me right now is Al Alcorn, and he has a storied past. And I'm going to get into that in a minute, but first, I just want to welcome Al to the program here. So, Al, you're joining us from California right now. We want to thank you for making the time. And for those who don't know Al by name, you certainly know products of his brain, Pong being one of them. He is credited as being the creator of Pong and had a giant role in several other Atari games, having been the chief engineer there back in the 70s. Hopefully I didn't get anything wrong there, Al.
No, it's close enough. Yeah, I had various titles, VP of R&D, VP of engineering, but I was essentially the chief engineer, and tried to bring Atari into doing new and different things, because that was the exciting part for me.
When you got to Atari in the 70s, where was the technology? What did it look like?
Well, the technology was rapidly advancing, and what are called TTL integrated circuits. Microprocessors were just coming out. Intel had just introduced the 4001. Very, very slow, but it was a microprocessor. But there was these low-cost chips that were used to build mini computers and computers. They were called TTL logic chips. They were like 25 cents a piece in quantity, and you could wire them together. So this was before microprocessors, and I basically designed what is technically called a state machine that produced the image of Pong on a television set. And that was my initial challenge: was how do you create an image that plays on a home television set that you can control and do it very cheaply. And that was the task. And to my surprise, I succeeded. I was only 24 years old when I did it, so I didn't have any expectations. And right out of pretty much, I graduated from Berkeley, University of California in '71. So this was '72. So it was one of my first jobs.
Yeah. What was it? Was there a breakthrough moment for you? You kind of you were inventing the wheel. There was really nothing prior to go on. So was there a moment or a discovery for you that allowed you to do this?
Yeah, I mean, there were prior things. Ralph Baer had invented the Magnavox Odyssey game, which was an analog device, and it was a place, a set that you hooked to your TV. So somebody had already done the fundamental thing of hooking up a circuit to a home television set. So I couldn't say that couldn't be done. It was just, maybe I couldn't do it, but that had already been done. And there were other things that were done, experiments in universities and stuff. And indeed, a lot of it came from the Space War program that ran a PDP-1 computer that my boss, Nolan Bushnell, it was introduced to when he was in college at University of Utah. And but that was on $1 million computer. How do you put it on a little inexpensive home set? That was the challenge, and I succeeded.
Yeah, I probably should stop ever saying inventing the wheel, because there is always something preceding an invention there. So where did you take it? So you saw that it could be hooked up to a television. What was your contribution right out of the gate?
Well, making a low-cost circuit that was reliable, that could do that. I mean, that was basically it. I had like 75 chips in there, and the power supply, and making it so it would work in that environment. The other thing that's important to realize: the first Pong game was in an arcade. It wasn't a home game; it was an arcade machine, so it was more expensive. And but the whole arcade business already existed since the 30s with pinball machines and driving games and stuff. And so there was a whole food chain of distributors, operators, manufacturers. So we weren't trying to introduce a whole new way of doing things. We just changed the technology that was in the arcade game to this digital technology, which allowed a whole different range of games, and it seems to have caught on.
Yeah, I believe it has. I believe it has. History would probably judge that to be the case. So when you developed Pong, did they come to you with the idea, and did anyone within Atari say this is what we want to do, or did you create the concept as well as the technology?
Well, no, the way it worked was the real spark plug of this was Nolan Bushnell, and he was a little bit older than me, not much, and he graduated from the University of Utah, where he saw two things. He saw the Space War game on a PDP-1, and he worked at an amusement park in the summer running an arcade, so he understood the dynamics of that business. And he said, "Gosh, if I could put that space war game on a computer, we could in a video game that people could play, we'd make a lot of money." And he designed something called Computer Space. Had a futuristic looking cabinet. The problem was it was pretty difficult to play. You really had to have a degree in physics and understand Keplerian motion pretty well. And so what he did was he thought that the winning game was going to be a driving game, but that was too complex. So he lied to me and told me that he had a contract from General Electric for a home version of a ball and paddle game, and that I had to design it. So, okay, now his plan was to throw it away because it was simply the simplest possible game you could ever design. To this day, it's the simplest video game still, and then I'd get on the real one. But didn't tell me that. He told me it was a real game, so I tried to make it fun to play, adding things like speed up and sound and stuff like that, and much to my surprise and his, it was a hit. We put it on location and like, oh boy, look what happened.
Unbelievable.
I remember when we had it on test at Andy Cap's Tavern and it stopped working, and I went to fix it after work one day and opened up the coin box to give myself a free play, and the thing was so full of quarters it wouldn't take anymore. These coins gushed out. So I took the bag of quarters down to back to the office the next day and dropped them on Nolan's desk and said, "I found the problem. The goddamn thing's making too much money."
Wow. Wow,
So
that's
change the
incredible.
plans, quickly change the plans.
Was that one of the moments where you go, we've kind of got lightning in a bottle here, or?
I was kind of stunned. Yeah, I didn't know what to make of it because I have figured this was a startup company. It was just I was employee number three, and Nolan, Ted, and Joe. And we didn't have any venture capital. We didn't have. I mean, it was just I don't know. I give credit to Nolan for how to make the payroll work with hardly any income. Anyway, it was a very fortunate that we invented a hit game right off the bat because I don't think we would have had our doors open much longer if I had.
Wow. I mean, this is stories of legend. It's amazing when you hear that. And you hear about the Silicon Valley companies today, they're working around the clock, they're totally dedicated. Was that the case for you when you started? Was it all hands on deck all the time, or was it a bit more chill back then?
Well, it was all hands on deck since all the hands were me and Nolan.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
nothing else to do, but empty the garbage cans and stuff like that. And so
Wow.
it was a very small enterprise, and I'm just sitting down there designing Pong. And I remember I'd show it to Nolan and Ted how far I'd gotten, and they'd tell me, "Well, you gotta." First off, they told me this thing was supposed to be for General Electric, a home version. That meant it had to be very, very cheap. And I had too many parts in it to be that cheap. So it was kind of a failure in that sense. And the other thing was Nobody from General Electric ever called or wrote a letter or came
You didn't pick
over.
up on that though, huh?
Never occurred to me that this was all BS. Uh, and so Nolan said, "Oh, yeah." So I got everything I could get into it as cheaply as possible." And I showed it, and Nolan said, "Well, it has to have sound." And I go, "I got too many parts in here already, Nolan." He says, "No, I want the roar of a crowd of thousands." And I didn't know how to do that. And so I said, "Okay." So I went back and I just poked around in the circuit that was already there to find tones that might sound good, put them out. Those are the sounds in Pong, the beeps and the pops. And I
Unbelievable.
said, "If you don't like it, Nolan, you do it yourself." Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now that's ingrained in all of our brains, what
That's
you were
right.
poking around
That's
doing.
right. That's right. Yes. Yes.
That
It
is
took about
my
two hours to do it.
my goodness. And it's one thing to have a startup and even create a sensation. It's another to grow a business. That was it harder or because right now you get picked up, by a giant company within minutes if you have anything good. How did the acumen come to play? Like who was able to really what's the right word? Upscale the business.
Well, uh, everybody was sort of against us. The banks were see in those days from the early 50s and 60s, there was a lot of corruption and gangsters involved in arcades and stuff like that. So the banks just assumed that we were in the mob or something like that, and they wouldn't
Huh.
loan us any money. Venture capitalists wouldn't talk to us. The first real help we got was from the parts supplier, the electronic parts supplier would give us 90-day credit on buying parts. Other than that, yeah, it was there wasn't much hope for us. And then, of course, once we were a success, everybody's our friend. But at first, it was tough getting any help outside.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine the difficulty. But you're 24 years old, so you probably weren't terribly worried, correct? I mean, you're just kind of like, well, if this works, it works.
Yeah, exactly. I figured it wasn't going to work. Most of these things didn't, and there weren't a lot of startups going on at that point anyway. And I figured I knew that in Silicon Valley, if once the thing folded, I could get a job at a real company like Ampex, and that was my plan, and didn't work out that way.
No, no, no. And you probably get asked this, and if you don't want me to act, but there's that legendary story. I don't know how much truth there is that Steve Jobs shows up in the waiting room and they call because you're the main guy, and they say, you got this hippie in the waiting room. Do you want to take him? He says he wants a job. Is that all true?
Pretty much, yeah. He shows up, uh, and I had some time, so yeah, I'll talk to him. I mean, I graduated from Berkeley in the '60s, so I'm familiar with hippies and that whole thing. So it didn't upset me at all. I was 24 years old. I was young, and he needed a job as a tech, and I asked, what college you go to. He said Reed. I said, "Is that an electronic school?" "No, no, it's an act literary thing." And okay, what's my motivation? He said he had this buddy that worked at Hewlett Packard, was Woz. So that's not doing me any good. And but he had such enthusiasm and passion, and he was cheap. And so I figured I could use a tech, so I hired him as a tech, and that's how that happened. Thank God I
Wow.
did.
Yeah. Did he show his ability, his sensibility, like right away when it came to this type of technology?
Well, I mean, he's not an engineer, he is a tech, so he could
Right.
take a schematic drawn by an engineer and wire that up. And so he knew how to use a wire wrap gun and a soldering iron, and we got the work done. Uh, he was a little irritable. I mean, he didn't blend in with the other engineers that well. And so he worked out a deal where he would work after 5 o'clock when the engineers left. That made the relationship better there. And his buddy who worked at HP, and HP was the 8 to 5 company. So after and in the afternoon, Woz would come over to Apple to Atari to our place, and we were building a lot of arcade games in the back, and so he could go in the back and play these games all night long for free, and play with his buddy Jobs. So that's what was going on. A strange deal, but I liked Woz. The guy is brilliant. I mean, he's just a savant. He's just the sweetest guy and one of the sharpest guys you ever met.
Yeah, I've actually had the privilege of meeting him, and I couldn't agree more. What a time and place to be alive for you. I mean,
Yeah.
did you know at the time that there was something special brewing, or were you just kind of so in the mix and so in the moment that you didn't realize what was happening?
Well, if you're talking about Atari,
Yeah,
I was a little, yeah, Nolan had these dreams that there's going to be $1 million company, and here we were barely able to make payroll. I'm going, yeah, sure, okay, right, fine. I'll go along with the gag until it blows. So it seemed you know, pretty ordinary. And then on the second coming of Steve of Jobs, when
yeah,
he came back from India after meeting his guru, he and Woz had this crazy idea for a home computer, and they pitched it to us, and I got Jobs a chance to talk to Joe Keenan, our president at that time, about it, and he wanted Atari to build the thing for him because he had no facilities at all, and we declined, turned him down, and we helped him find a venture capitalist, Don Valentine, to actually underwrite Apple, get it started, and put in Markle and make it a real company, and that took off from there.
yeah. That's one of those. If you can go back in time and offer some advice to your boss there. So did you see when Woz and Jobs started on that? Did you because you were in the mix when it came to engineering. You weren't just into video games. You were an engineer. Did you see something special there, just in the concept form?
Well, I'd love to have a personal computer, my own computer, which is fabulous. I just wanted that. But I also knew that what would my wife do with the thing? I mean, you had to program it and all that. And so later on, a story to illustrate that was I helped Woz and Jobs get started. They were nice people and uh, share share the help. And he said, "Well, I'm going to let you buy some founder stock in Apple for the help you've given me." And I figured this. I said, "I had enough wallpaper. I don't need any more stock, but I'll take a free computer." So I took a free Apple II in lieu of founder stock in Apple. Not one of my better business decisions. And yeah, and uh, they came over to the house one day, the whole company, about 10 of them, uh, to give me my free Apple II, one of the first Apple IIs out there, and I had it running in the kitchen, in the living room on a projection TV, and Waz showed me how to program Tiny Basic and all that. And after they left, I told Katie I can make it do anything. She said, "Great, make it wash the dishes." I can't do that. Make it mop the floor. I can't do that. Was to get it out of the living room because I want to watch television. So that was the beginning of it. And so I didn't think it would go very far. But I was wrong. And I remember when the VisiCalc, because there was nothing you could do with it, really, unless you knew how to program. And then all of a sudden, this program called VisiCalc came out, and
Mhm.
I was go, uh-oh, this is a program that people will buy this little Apple II for it and just run that to do accounting. And now I realized that, oh, there is an application for these things.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me. I read that book about Marconi, and Thunder, something I can't. I'll think of it in 2 seconds. But they had the technology out before he got to the scene, and he was the one who said, "Oh, I know what we can do is the Morse code. I can, use this over the air signal to do Morse code." And suddenly communication was possible. So it's like what you see, how you apply it, and
Mhm.
you kind of did that with arcade games and whatnot. By the way, when you were back in Rochester a couple of months ago, I'm sure they brought you upstairs to the arcade that we have here. What do you think when you were here?
Oh, I think it's a really good arcade because it really illustrates some important aspects that may not be apparent to most people about the early industry. Featuring stuff like Jerry Lawson, engineering friend of mine that did the Fairchild Channel F and a few other things, and kind of showing a little bit more of the history of how these things, how the industry actually began and developed.
Yeah, probably took you down memory road a little bit. But Thunderstruck, by the way, that's the book I was thinking of. So, where my son, he is in love with video games, like most kids are. It's the PlayStation and the Switch 2 and all that. What do you think about where video games are compared to where they were when you were first developing them?
Well, I mean, it's wonderful that they're here, and uh, they've gotten far more complex. I mean, hundreds of people create these games, teams of engineers. That's not my style.
Yeah,
I did Pong in a couple of months, sitting down at a table and just did it.
yeah,
And then I got to, I wanted being the VP of engineering, where you're not really doing any engineering, you're managing other engineers to do the job that you used to do. And that to me is not as much fun as doing it. So that's how the home version of Pong came about, because I got tired of spitting out arcade games, and found somebody that could replace me, and I took over and I started the home version, putting Pong on a single custom chip, and that all of a sudden that changed everything at Atari.
yeah. Everything. And you are you most proud of Pong? But you had a hand in so many other games. Or is Pong still kind of your favorite brainchild?
Say that again, please. I was
Yeah.
interrupted.
Oh no, all good. Is Pong your favorite brainchild, or do you have others that you worked on that you hold up to the same height as that?
Well, no, I mean, in the Atari story, uh, I think, clearly the VCS uh, was league above everybody else in the business, uh, because of the work that Steve Mayer and the guys did up at our research lab in Grass Valley, and getting that in production and getting approved. That was a much a, a, a bigger accomplishment. I mean, that was a whole team of people doing that. So, and then later on, after Apple, I worked after Atari. I worked at many other companies, did other things. Uh, I was at Apple Computer as an Apple Fellow, and among other things, I worked on something called MPEG, which the idea was to put videos in the computer as a data type. Before that, you had to put the video on a laser disc and hook it. It was complex and didn't work very well. And we managed to do that. And I feel slightly responsible for clogging the internet with millions of pictures of puppies and kittens and videos. I did not see that one coming, but hey, people are communicating with it. So that was, I think, a bigger achievement.
Yeah, that's incredible. By the way, what happened to the original computer that you had, the Apple computer? Where's that these days?
Oh, the old Apple II computer?
Yeah.
Oh, I sold that. I felt like some guy wanted it, and to me, it's yeah, it's, yeah.
Have you kept up? So as the technology advanced, were you one of the people that you were like watching every single, not every single, but these different companies and the technology they were applying? Or did you kind of try and stay in your lane, I guess, or something in between?
No, I have a pretty broad view. I mean, the last project I worked on at Atari, this is after Warner bought us and was mismanaging us terribly. Uh, I decided I'd go back, and Atari needed a new product, and I decided to make a product out of a hologram, and we actually did that. Cosmos was a project, and we actually invented created the first embossed holograms that you see on the back of MasterCard. You know those little shiny holograms on the credit
Yeah.
cards? Yeah, we did that. The first ones. We didn't bother to patent it. Uh, uh, that wasn't our real business. But yeah, so I enjoyed keeping abreast of new technologies and uh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I read how you ended up going to different shows and showing that off and all that. I mean, what a wild world. I guess one of my last questions here, I'll end on kind of a broad one, but given your position, I can't help but wonder what you think of AI and where that's going.
Well, I have a very contrarian view of AI, and I've always had skeptical views of new technologies. I can think of bunch of reasons why it can't be done or shouldn't be done, and then it often gets done. So don't take my opinions that seriously. But what they're calling AI now is LLMs, large language models that don't have any intelligence, don't know anything, and but communicate in a way that makes you think they are very reasonable, very smart, and very good. So it results in really strange stuff. For example, ChatGPT claimed they could beat the Atari video chess. We had a cartridge for the VCS, a chess cartridge, which used 128 bytes of RAM, 2K bytes of ROM, and a 6502 microprocessor, and ChatGPT, which has server farms around the planet in outer space, it couldn't even get off the ground. It was just trounced by this old Atari thing. I mean, it didn't even know that it couldn't win. Uh,
Hmm.
but it can do some very powerful things. Like if you look at what it could do for medical, for examining X-rays, if you
Yeah.
train it that way, it'll spot tumors that doctors wouldn't see. I think it's wonderful. But artificial general intelligence is not going to come from that. And to think it will is kind of dangerous because they just it hallucinates. And hallucination is even wrong because it assumes there's some thought process going on, and there's no thought process. It's just which words come great after the next word. So it sounds very friendly. Do you remember the old program called Eliza back
No.
in the 80s or 70s? It's really early on the first Apple II. They had this program called Eliza, which was a very small program, and you typed into it and talked to it like a psychiatrist, and the thing would just feedback what you said, and people wanted to believe it. People want to
Yeah.
believe there's intelligence in there, and okay, but that doesn't mean there is.
Right. I have to tell you that that has been, as a pure layman, and I'm even below a layman, that has been my suspicion all along. And I find it very comforting to hear someone like you say that. So,
What's also amazing to me and kind of frustrating is the amount of money being doled out by venture capitalists for this scheme. It's
yeah.
hundreds of billions. We sold Atari to Warner Communications for $30 million. We thought that was all the money in the world. That would be the budget for the banquet after the IPO at this point, you know?
Yeah.
So I was too soon on that. If we had waited, a few years, it would have been a lot more profitable for us. Oh well,
There you go.
but it's been a great ride.
Yeah. Yeah. You take the wins and the losses.
Yeah,
Al, this has been a win for me talking to you. I can't thank you enough for joining me and sharing your time with me.
I'm delighted to speak with you. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time you're in town.
All righty. Goodbye.
All right. Goodbye. That's Al Alcorn talking to us, and thank you so much for watching. Tell your friends and family about the Rochester First app. Always thrilled to have you aboard, and we hope you can join us tomorrow night. All right, everyone. Take care.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Hey.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 on demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.